shows that the establishment, with its control mechanisms, its private schools, its universities, its tax-funded think tanks, and its military-industrial surveillance complex, is losing control. These are the people who, to whom we owe public education, to whom we can thank, or for whom we can thank, our many foreign wars and our the experiences that made our veterans the freedom fighters that they are. Right? They are freedom fighters, and though they died, some of them died, and all those who survived were there. They survived, and their goal was survival. It was not freedom. It was not to save the country from the Red Scare or Nazism. It was to survive. They were forced into this service, and in God's providence, many survived, and many of the ones, even from World War II, alive still today in nursing homes under the care of the VA, seeing every weekend their nearest son, who comes with his children to visit the old man at the nursing home. Well, this is David Tulis, and we are excited to think about the prospects of the marketplace in general. What Adam Smith, in his 1776 volume called The Wealth of Nations — it's a book that has a very long title, but the summation of it is The Wealth of Nations. Where does that wealth come from? Does it come from politics? Does it come from the exercise of power and the giving of special favor to favored corporations, favored courtiers, even, and their operations? Is that where the general prosperity comes from? And the answer is no, it doesn't. Prosperity for a people comes when there's a general liberty. Liberty brings prosperity, and that is liberty of speech, liberty of movement, and the freedom to buy and sell without having to ask anybody permission to do what is an obligation, right? For every man. Every man has a duty before God and to his children and to his in-laws, I guess, to support and maintain a family, and to increase the wealth of the family, support his children, keep his wife happy, and put food on the table and pay the light bill and have enough firewood available for the stove to keep things warm if the power goes out in a storm, which is, of course, happening in New England. There is a giant storm that has affected many people. Have you been affected by the storm in New England, the 2 feet of snow in New York? Well, it turns out I had hoped that yesterday I would have seen a daughter visiting from Manhattan for several days. She was going to come here with a young man from her church, and a Frenchman, apparently, who wanted to find out about the South, and who was interested in finding out about my ideas and how they might fit into his line of thinking. But the whole thing aborted, the whole trip canceled, no plans. I kept having to tell the girl's grandmother, well, Mom, there are no plans for Abigail. She's not coming. Nothing's been planned. There's absolutely nothing on the agenda for now. Everything's just been marked off. The airlines are saying no. We're canceling whole rows of trips, and so I've had a little bit of personal interest in the New England saga on the weather. Well, how is it that the New World Order is coming apart? Well, it's coming apart because of your smartphone. It's coming apart because you have a desktop Macintosh and an online connection, and there are people, all kinds of people, who can use the power of decentralization in their favor and to their profit. Think of laser printers that create products, right? Think of small factories filled with rows of desktop printers that make things, that not just print things anymore on paper, but spit out bits of plastic that create some very complex objects. And some of them, as the development in that 3D printing technology continues, things in metal, no longer just plastic. Think of what happens to manufacturing if you can have in your garage 2 or 3 3D printers and have a factory making very specific things, right? There is a power of decentralization from the digital world that is destroying, according to Gary North in his latest essay at GaryNorth.com, destroying the power of the marketplace, the power over the marketplace, that the New England humanistic, you might say even Unitarian establishment has long exercised, even here in Chattanooga, even here in Hamilton County. And you might listen, you're traveling, you're a traveling man, the man in the big rig. Well, even in your town, the place from which you come, the same thing is happening. You may be from a little town in Oklahoma from which all the young people have fled. They've all fled after high school. They went to the big city to find employment. Well, even there's a prospect now that with the internet and with smartphones and digital communications, people don't have to leave. In fact, I've heard hints that in some parts of this country, people are coming back to the towns they abandoned. And there's a desire to, because we have this interlinking technology, there's a desire to find again the place that one had abandoned as a high school senior, gone off to the state college in the Farm Belt and not looked back. There is a desire in the breasts of many to reconnect with home and home places, even though in some places they're just flat prairie, and miles and miles and miles of straight rows dotted on the horizon by a silo or two, and blotches of trees where a farmhouse sits, where the old mom is, and the uncle works on the tractor, and an aunt in another house nearby makes raw milk and secretly peddles it at the farmer's market, hoping that the inspector won't hold her to account. Well, we're brought to you by Superior Air Systems here in Chattanooga in the big orange vans, going about and making sure that your heating unit and in the summer your cooling unit are working in top performance. That's Superior Air Systems, 886-6602. Call today and have that work done. And just remember that you'll get the best service from Superior. And the orange vans will melt. If there's any ice on your driveway, that van will drive up, and the glow of that orange van is so great that it'll melt a patch of dark tarmac there if there's any ice left on your driveway. And also, we're brought to you by P5 Preparedness, the preparedness store on East Brainerd Road. Duke and Seth are there. Duke Nukem, who's every Thursday at 11 o'clock here at our station. He's there to help you and find out more about preparations and prudence about the whole requirement, if you will, of providence. Providence is taking care of things, right? Just as God is provident, He takes care of every detail and arranges everything to come about according to His eternal decree. Even sin, right? Even sin. I was hearing yesterday in a sermon, God can use sin without sinlessly. He can use sin and sinners to accomplish His ends, even though there's damage and loss and violation of His laws. He can use people following their own desires and wills to accomplish His end. We are here, the home of Super Bowl 50. You can listen live on the TuneIn Radio app and enjoy the football games. That's Super Bowl. That's free. We have it here. And if you're in the range of our powerful AM 1240 signal, you can enjoy Super Bowl at no charge. A lot of people think that to hear a Super Bowl or to see a Super Bowl, they have to pay. Well, here you see it in your mind's eye because you're listening to it. You're listening on the radio, which makes a picture in your mind. It's called the theater of the mind, and we and all of our broadcasters put in the eye of your cerebellum, right? This fabulous game. So you can listen live and free on the TuneIn Radio app and at hotnewstalkradio.com. That's hotnewstalkradio.com. And we are brought to you by Superior Systems and P5 Preparedness. Make sure that you note these advertisers. That's how we work in radio. If you like what we're arguing, if you like the free market, if you like independence of thought, which I hope to offer you efforts in, make sure that you support our advertisers. We work when our advertisers prosper. And in fact, our whole goal here at our little radio station, the place in which you report and the world decides, our goal is to make you prosper. and also, as we tell our advertisers, to make them prosper. And they do that when you, the listener, say, that's a hot news talk radio advertiser. I better go over and do some business there, and let the owner know that I do listen to that radio station. I really appreciate him being there, because that's how I, David Tulis, your host here, the Love Your Neighbor Buy Local guy. That's how I make my living. And it's a service to the small shop. The small shop, we love small shops, and better 10 small shops at $100 an account than one big shop at $1,000. That's kind of my theory. And it seems to be working. We are the station, just by the way, glad that the New World Order is doddering. Glad that it's in intensive care. We argue that near is better than far, that small is better than big. And at point 3, always argue in threes, at point 3, that simple is better than complex. And down the footnotes, where the fleas make war against each other with scabbard and javelin, with, I should say, scimitar and javelin. A sword is in a scabbard, a knife is in a scabbard. Scimitar and javelin, we argue that personal is better than complex, and simple, this simple, is better than physical is better than abstract. I'm getting them all mixed up. The physical is better than abstract. We like the idea of physical money, silver and gold versus the digit. Well, we make a lot of the digital economy here at the Super Bowl 50 station, but we are excited at the possibility that the networks, the network of your smartphone and what you can do with it, is replacing the old boy network of the Anglo-Saxon establishment. Now, we are being given the treatment today over the high sky over Chattanooga. I am referring to stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, and I took a few photographs this morning on the way in. I almost didn't make it to the mic on time, but we have received the benefit of the official pollution program several days already. This month we had it on the 3rd of January, the 5th, also on the 11th, the 14th, the 19th, the 23rd, and today, of course, is the 25th of January. We are the recipients of a bitter program. I say it's bitter because the particulate matter that is dispensed in the sky is bitter. It is a toxicant, as one paper says, a paper I'm hoping to repost at Nooganomics.com, and it brings to you already what a paper that came out last week about the health effects of geoengineering. It brings to you aluminum, strontium, and barium, and other things, including there are proposals that particles that contain sulfuric acid be injected into the atmosphere to save the planet. Right? That's the sort of pretended argument for geoengineering. We save the planet by controlling the weather, and we put over the land masses over the cities, which are kind of called heat wells, I think, or heat magnets. We put over them clouds, as we often have over Chattanooga, to dim the sun so that the sun rays won't come down and be absorbed by the city and generate heat, where lock the buildings and the tarmac lock in the heat. Well, the problem is that we have an accelerated global warming program, according to numerous sources, and rather, I should say, increasing temperatures worldwide. The hottest year on record is said to have been 2015. Well, if that's true, the acceleration of that phenomenon is because of the emissions, the white emissions by jet. The cheapest way of altering the weather is to control it by these particles, which direct and redirect not just light rays from the sun, but also water and storm systems. The storm systems that we have today are not by God's hand anymore. God doesn't have enough to do, so God has too much to do, so men are going to help him by wresting from his providence the control of weather. And there is no doubt in my mind that many of our phenomenon, whether gigantic storms or sudden freezes that kill 300,000 head of cattle in the Dakotas, or the drought in California are serving private interests. Now, we here at AM 1240 are a pro-government station. We're very much for government, and we don't think that we think that if there is a civil magistrate in a government, it should not serve private interests at all. It should serve only the public interest, and really only in terms of one single effort, and that is justice. The state should be involved in nothing but justice, which is to say, the punishment of evil. And that's it. There shouldn't be a positive mission that the state claims for itself. The state should let that belong to the church and to the family, to distinct sovereignties, if you will, to distinct jurisdictions, which have had taken from them since the progressive era in the 1880s much of their vigor and their capital. So we are kind of at the end of a long period of decapitalization, marked by inflation, wars, and cartel economics, debt economics. And so the question I think that you, my listener, want to think about is how can we understand the future well enough to divest, as I say, divest national. That means sell, right? Sell national and buy local. That's what you should be doing, buying local. The International Old Boy Network, North says, is figuring out that they are being replaced by digital networks. They are like the specialist traders in the commodities futures pit who for over a century screamed and used hand signals to communicate their buy and sell decisions. These people have been replaced by computer networks. The same thing is now happening to the New World Order. It doesn't make for good newspaper imagery, but it is happening. The Keynesians reject, of course, market competition. John Maynard Keynes, being the homosexual economist who was all about spending, right? That was all he ever thought about: spend, and there's no production. In his view, deficit spending is the way to accentuate the present moment of consumption, and you don't worry about the debt because, well, we won't be here for that. We don't have to worry about that. But market competition is based more and more on computer networks, and the grand designs of the central planners and the welfare state advocates are steadily losing grounds. And he quotes, Gary North quotes an article from the head of the European Council on Foreign Relations. And this writer says, likewise, global multilateral institutions are in jeopardy of being sidelined by a new generation of competing friendship clubs. So the idea of the friendship club, according to the head of the European Council on Foreign Relations, is the danger. It's already happening, though. What is a friendship club? Friendship clubs, in one way of looking at them, is local economy and the free market. And the idea is that we don't have to have central institutions to manage us, to protect us, to secure us, to regulate us, and certainly not to tax us. These are things that are not really needed anymore, and they're hard. They're going to be harder and harder for the New World Order and local minions thereof, right, to maintain control over a people who no longer have to be in a certain location to prosper. In the digital economy, you can prosper wherever you are. So in a way, the digital revolution has many things that seem like they're against place, right? They are defeating place and the demands of place, the prison of geography, as one writer calls it. However, we can understand that while those things are beneficial and true, we can still and have more reason to more identify with local place. In other words, the here, whether it's Chattanooga, we're being Nooga-centrist now, or where you happen to be from. You, my listener, just passing through town. Thanks for your time.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After this cold and frosty start, expect beautiful weather for your Monday. A little warmer with lots of sunshine, highs 50 to 52. Tonight, more clouds, not as cold, lower 40s. For Tuesday, showers will move in from the west, highs near 50, a little drier and cooler on Wednesday. This forecast is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Wondering if your battery's on its way out? Stop by Advance and they'll test it for you free of charge, only at Advance Auto Parts. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business and becoming self-sufficient. Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. 875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Call me now, 875-5621.
While politicians debate climate change and taking our guns, they leave America vulnerable to disaster. You need to act now to keep your family safe and prepared. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have long-term storage food? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? If not, what are you waiting for? Call P5 Preparedness right now, 423-602-2175. Do you honestly think the government is going to help you? If you do, you are wrong, dead wrong. Don't get caught unprepared. Let the experts at P5 Preparedness get you ready for any emergency or disaster situation. Today, we offer a wide range of classes for the beginner on how to prepare, as well as the expert prepper. We stock a wide range of supplies, including long-term storage food, water filtration, outdoor gear, tactical gear, and plate carriers. P5 Preparedness, East Brainerd Road, between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. You will see the Army Deuce and a Half truck. 423-602-2175, 1309 Panorama Drive, Chattanooga. P5preparedness.com.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. The cleanup continues on the East Coast after the massive weekend blizzard. In Philadelphia, the snow emergency has been lifted. But resident Joe Wyatt says
there's a lot of snow, so there's nowhere to put it.
On the New Jersey shore, water also a problem.
We didn't get as much snow as we got flooding, but New Jersey got a couple of feet of snow, and a mother and a 1-year-old inside the car while it was running died when their tailpipe got blocked with snow, and they died of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Steve Keeley of Fox affiliate WTXF in Stone Harbor, New Jersey. Federal offices in Washington are shut down today. A new ISIS video showing extremists who carried out the November attacks in Paris.
Footage claiming to show 9 men involved in Paris committing atrocities in ISIS territory before they left for France. All 9 are now dead, killed in the attacks or in the aftermath.
Fox Radio's Simon Owen. French President Hollande denouncing the video as propaganda. Fox News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Bledsoe County Schools closed today. Catoosa County Schools dismissing early. Elementary will be at 1. Middle and high school will be letting out at 2. Grundy County Schools closed today. Ray County Schools delayed 2 hours today. Hamilton County School Board voted yesterday in favor of a buyout of Superintendent Rick Smith's contract. Superintendent Smith had been under fire for his handling of an incident involving the rape of a freshman Ottawa basketball player by 3 teammates, opening the meeting by making the request for the buyout. He will still be the superintendent in charge of schools until the buyout process is complete. Voting against the buyout were Rhonda Thurman, Greg Martin, and David Testerman. And the state of Tennessee is under a level 3 state of emergency mandated by TEMA ahead of today's winter weather. While our area will mostly be seeing rain and sometimes freezing rain, other areas like Nashville have been seeing several inches of snow and are expected to get more. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After this cold and frosty start, expect beautiful weather for your Monday. A little warmer with lots of sunshine, highs 50 to 52. Tonight, more clouds, not as cold, lower 40s. For Tuesday, showers will move in from the west, highs near 50, a little drier and cooler on Wednesday. This forecast is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Wondering if your battery's on its way out? Stop by Advance and they'll test it for you free of charge, only at Advance Auto Parts. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
The elites in Davos are lamenting their slow loss of control, the loss of control of what one of their writers calls democratic systems. In an essay, one of the writers who are participants of this confab of elite white guys in Switzerland laments that with companies such as Uber and the sharing economy, there's less control over things such as wages. He says, and the process of creative destruction is occurring faster than ever. Confronted by the meteoric rise of Uber, for example, traditional taxi drivers, quote, are being asked to adjust in a matter of days rather than years, leaving democratic systems little time to determine how much compensation they should receive and how it should be distributed. In other words, democratic systems refers to what John Maynard Keynes wants, which is the modern welfare controller state, which allocates everything and which makes everybody an employee. And of course, we know that free markets don't care about democratic systems. They don't care about totalitarian systems. They work to go around them, as these systems of control always raise prices on everything and make innovation much more difficult or impossible, and keep invention away from the consumer, and keep not wanting free markets. They are perfectly happy to accept control markets and limits on what a people, the people for whom they're serving, to endure. This is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We're brought to you by the best barbecue joint in Chattanooga, and that's Choo Choo Barbecue in Hickson. Choo Choo Barbecue, with pork and chicken and beef, but you can say and as well. Especially if you are catering an event, make sure you have all three of those available in the big tray there. That bright soul standing behind with the apron ready to serve your gathering. That's Choo Choo Barbecue. Great sandwiches and salads, all kinds of good things that make a good catering event. The number is 870-7894, 870-7894. Right here in Hickson, there's a secret rub, which is part of the recipe, and a delicious smoked flavor. It's in Hickson, right near the Valley Brook golf course. And if you're thinking of going into business, which I do think you should be considering seriously, my listener, and you don't have ideas for your own operation, contact Bruce Krebs. He runs Entrepreneur Source, and what he does is a headhunter. He will get you into a franchise. All right, that's a business run by somebody else, and you become the local outpost of that service provider. And Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source will help make all the arrangements. You don't pay him a dime. He's paid by the franchisor. If you, my listener, buy franchise and become the franchisee, okay? 875-5621. That's 875-5621. Call today. On your signature, you can get $150,000 in credit for your business, and Bruce will explain how you can do that. We are talking about decentralization, and looking forward to, perhaps a bit whimsically, to the end of the state that's going to be coming about partly through digital benefits and decentralization. And the elites are concerned about losing their control, and they can't get away from the John Maynard Keynes John Dewey theory, where everything has to be centralized, and policymakers have to act. Right there's this thing called public policy, which is often just illegal. Public policy is so wrong in many ways because it's not law. But people pretend that there's a law, and they write regulations, they write forms based on what are pretended laws, and yet they cannot be held to the actual statutory basis of any or many of their actions. Gary North is one of my favorite writers. I've read many of his books, and including his theology books, his histories, and he says that the old boy network, the New World Order, is stumbling. He says computerization is creating international economic cooperation. Digital networks are spreading across geographical borders, but horror of horrors, there's no international agency with sanctions comparable to those possessed by national governments. So, as trade, digital money, information, and almost everything else that makes the world go round is becoming multinational, the central planners are losing control. That's good news for local economy, right? Local economy, as centralization and centralized systems fail, right, as they're just bypassed, we are going to do better here in Hamilton County and in Chattanooga and all around the world. There are going to be opportunities for you to make your living, provide your service, and have at the same time a global marketplace for what you have to offer. If you're a producer, let's say of jams or jellies or sauces, but also you can have a stronger lococentric presence. You can be a better local player. You might become big enough to join the Chamber of Commerce, right? The organization for the big boys, right? The organization that looks out for the big people, and is often spoken of very slightingly for kind of neglecting the interest of the average Joe. North says that the global multilateral institutions. Here he's quoting the head of the Council on Foreign Relations of Europe, saying that global multilateral institutions are in jeopardy of being sidelined by a new generation of competing friendship clubs. And that what he's saying is what this writer is telling his colleagues in a Market Watch piece. His name is Mark Leonard. That technology connects countries, and technology diminishes the need and diminishes the semblance of authenticity of claims by the state upon you, my listener, your company, your business, your doings, your earnings. And he says about the only control that they have left is the university system. UTC is part of that cartel. When your strongest card is a tenured professor, you are not in a strong position. This is North. I just love the way he states things. He goes on to say, some 60-year-old geezer with a tweed jacket with leather patches on the elbows, who has not revised his lecture notes since 1988 and who lectures for no more than 6 classes a week, is not the stuff of world domination. But of course, that is what our betters have had all this time. They've effectively dominated the world. And in a nutshell, here's why the New World Order is going to give way to local economy. Right, the New World Order it has some things against it, and here's what it has. Here's what those things are. It proposes, for example, left and right, conservative, liberal, Republican, and Democrat, Keynesian perspective, right? That is to say, paper money, inflation, and centralized control. And these parties are fighting a rearguard action. And I think look at how few people are going to be voting for Republicans or Democrats. That the decline in voter rolls is very, very important to show that the political solution, the political idol, has lost his place. He's fallen off his pedestal. And when he falls off again, his head's going to fall off. And when he falls off the third time, his arms and legs are going to be broken, just like the idol in the temple of the Philistines. When Gideon Well, who is it now? When one of God's prophets is ready to make war. There's a story on the front page of the paper yesterday that you should make note of. Low confidence in government. 61% say they are slightly, not at all confident in the federal government. 61%. I think when it reaches 64%, something's going to happen. 30% are merely confident. 8%, probably half of them at UTC and places like that, are very or extremely confident in government. 1% said that they don't know. That was a graphic in the Sunday editions of the Chattanooga Times and Free Press, Associated Press graphic. The source is the Nork Center of Public Affairs, and a very small sampling of about 1,000 people. And there's another story in the paper that tells you why people are angry. It's about Oklahoma, latest state to consider curbing police power. Here's why confidence in government has declined. Get this. There was an event in Detroit at the Contemporary Art Institute. Think of Hunter Museum of Art, right? Think of Hunter's Museum of Art and where this is happening, which didn't have a liquor license. And the good people confiscated 44 cars from guests. Okay, here you are in rundown Detroit in the Rust Belt. The hoity-toity crowd is having an event at the Contemporary Art Institute, but it didn't have a liquor license. So everybody at the event, or many people at the event, 44 of them, had their cars stolen from them by the federal government. A federal judge ruled, the story says, in 2012 that the raid violated the Fourth Amendment. Wow. And reflected a widespread practice by the department, that is the department, the Drug Enforcement Agency. And we have things like that. Well, we haven't had one quite that bad here, but we just have to wait. We just have to wait for there to be a scandal, right? A scandal that makes people that shocks the conscience, if you will. It shocks their conscience. So on one side of the column, you have the establishment of the New World Order. You have it's a pre-World War I fabrication, or you might say construct of alliances and friendships, private schools, private universities, and think tanks. The left and right are in it together. The Skull and Bone Society that the Bush, President Bush's son masturbated over a skull as part of the rites of initiation. I read, when think of it, when Bush number 2 ran against John Kerry. Both were members of Skull and Bones. So what kind of choices do we really have if in one round in the national elections, both parties have have their boys from the same club? That's why you should consider Gary Johnson. He's the former governor of New Mexico, and he says, running as a libertarian, he says, try it one time. He says. And if you're not happy with peace and prosperity and respect for the Constitution, then you can vote tyranny and despotism back into office again the next time. It's a very funny line of thinking. But I think we here in Chattanooga should sort of shiver with expectation, right, at the prospect of decentralization, where they have where the old world order has a control system here in the marketplace in Chattanooga. Think of Lamppost Group. Think of Renaissance Chattanooga. Think of even think of Catherine Foster at the Business Development Center. I'd say she's probably part of the newer model of doing things. A spontaneous order, though there's tax money involved in that, understood. But it's kind of the Wi-Fi world versus the Washington Post, right? In the part that Catherine Foster has. Forgive me for not remembering her new name. There's not a centralized control. On the Davos side of the ledger, you've got politics, you've got John Maynard Keynes, you've got managed trade, you've got Council on Foreign Relations, you've got the New York Times, you have employer-employee relationships, you have the university. On the other side, where we are here in Chattanooga in the free market, which a burgeoning free market, let's hope, that is probably at 20% of power, right? I'd say Chattanooga is at 20%, maybe 25% of what it could be if we had a free market, if we had continuing devolution, continuing selling of national and buying into local and digital. We could have 75, we could have 300% more of what we have now if we just advanced in the direction of the marketplace. On our side, on our side of the regime, I say the left side has got progressivism, statism, Democrats and Republicans. On our side, we've got the internet, we've got a free trade. There's a smartphone. On the left, you've got the New York Times and the Washington Post. On our side, we've got, well, Matt Drudge, right? Matt Drudge, one man, has of course expanded his operation, but he was initially ahead of everybody else, and in many ways he still is. He has millions and millions of people who visit his aggregator site every day. On our side, we've got the customer being king as opposed to the producer being king. We have Khan Academy, we have MIT Online, Harvard Online, every course you'd want to take. The fact that you have a smartphone is the argument that you should not be taking part in public education. Public education is something about which I don't understand how anybody could maintain the idea that knowledge is rare, that teaching is a rarity and has to be paid for by employees of the state. How does that work? How can we have smartphones like the one I'm holding in my hand, which is it's a $700 computer that I'm paying for over time. I'm paying, I don't know, $45 a month to use it. How can people who have these go to a public school and send their child off every morning on the bus to a public school? How does that happen? How do we think that knowledge is so rare and the expertise is so unique to the state that we have to send our children to a school? And I would say even people who have private schools probably should have the same question posed to them. It's not just to those who are the victims of public education, or should I say the patrons, the honorable patrons of the public system. We have on our side, we have homeschooling, we have certification by corporations, you have certification by software writers, software companies, where without going to school at all, you can get a gig, and you can build a gig, a bigger gig, by serving clients. Why do you have to have a high school diploma? Why a BS or a BA to be hired? Well, I think if you're being hired, that's what employee offices or personnel managers, or should I say human resource directors, look at. They look at the old legacy forms of verification. But I think as things progress the next 10 or 15 years, that will be less and less important. And people probably will be shifting away from employment toward more equitable relationships. That is to say, by contract. So that means there's no vacation, there are no benefits. You are your own man. You are dealing as an equal with another party providing a service, often digitally, using your own equipment, your own office, your own desk. You buy your own pencil sharpeners, and if it's a deductible expense, you put that on your list of expenses you can take off on your tax form if you file tax returns. This is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. I had wanted to get to talk about David Fowler, and David Fowler helped block a bill last week, Wednesday, in a subcommittee in Nashville, and he makes the argument to me that the backers of the interposition bill that I highly favor were unable to show support for their thinking. In other words, they made an argument for interposition that the state declares marriage be between one man and one woman, as its Constitution already does. But he asked, how, if we have a constitutional amendment for marriage, and now we're going to pass a bill that sort of says the same thing, how can we expect any different results? What does this bill actually do? Is it just a demonstration of anger among godly people, among Christian people, that marriage has been deconstructed by Washington and allowed to be deconstructed and deconstructed in alliance with and with the cooperation of Governor Haslam and the Attorney General and the whole state bowing before the federal opinion, right? And there's no law here at all, no law at all, just an opinion. Well, David Fowler says, what did Mark Pody propose to do? Is there any move afoot to impeach the governor? Because that is what really has to happen. The governor has to be impeached. So also, David Fowler assures me, can a committee of 10 in Hamilton County impeach Bill Knowles, our erstwhile Christian county clerk who, on the day of Obergefell versus Hodges in June, capitulated thanks to advice from the county attorney, from the properly obeisant noises out of Nashville. Herbert Slattery's office, the attorney general, is saying, well, this is the law and our Constitution is irrelevant now. We don't have to worry about that. We just simply honor our oaths of office through the new interpretation, through the new paradigm, which from the high court says that marriage is nothing at all, nothing particular. We can make of it what we will. Our statutes defining marriage is between one man and one woman of no account. No account in that. We are a nation of laws, we are told again and again. And we live, though, under opinion. We live under the opinion of men. Where is the resolve of Chattanoogans? Where is the resolve of people in Hamilton County? Are these simply interesting problems to consider? You, my listener, are part of the problem, and so am I. I propose that there be 10 people who can unseat anyone. 10 people like you, my listener, can unseat a mayor. They can unseat a county clerk. They can unseat a sheriff. And it's called the Relator Statute. Now, the odd thing is I had published, I think, fairly extensively on the Relator Statute. And then I retracted everything I wrote because I had misunderstood the statute. But David Fowler assures me that my misunderstanding applied only in the argument that the Relator Statute could unseat the governor. He says, no, the Relator Statute does not apply to him, but to everyone else on down. The Relator Statute allows a committee of 10 men or 10 women to unseat an official for malfeasance or crimes in office. I would say violating an oath of office is a pretty serious charge. And that may need to be what happens in Chattanooga. What about you? Are you one of 10 men who could say, let's fight?
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd, right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial, welcome.
From all of us here at Hot News Talk Radio, thank you for patronizing our sponsors. It's important that you support people that support and advertise with Hot News Talk Radio, so we can continue to deliver the outstanding programs that you desire. And if you'd like to advertise on Hot News Talk Radio, you can email us at hotnewstalkradio@gmail.com. That's hotnewstalkradio@gmail.com. Or call 423-458-5563. That's 458-5563.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm the type of guy that likes a big breakfast, a couple of eggs, bacon, and some gravy and biscuits. I get that at Wimpy's. I know they have specials at lunch every day. That includes a big meat and three menu. At night, I want some good comfort food. Maybe some smoked brisket, pulled barbecue, or ribs. They've got that too. Wimpy's the type of place where you can go in and have a good conversation, catch up what's going on in Soddy Daisy, and have some great food. That's why I go to Wimpy's. You know where it's at, on Dayton Boulevard, right across from City Hall. That's Wimpy's. Give them a call, 423-332-6201. Did you hear me? It's 332-6201. Wimpy's. They're even on Facebook at Wimpy.